On January 9, 2007, Apple introduced a device that stripped away the physical keyboard in favor of a continuous glass screen. The iPhone set a completely different benchmark for mobile technology, presenting an immediate threat to every hardware manufacturer in the industry. The accepted history is that the old guard was caught completely off guard, but the archives at Aalto University show otherwise. In a secret internal memo drafted on January 10, literally 24 hours after Steve Jobs left the stage, Nokia's analysts wrote, "iPhone touchscreen UI may set a new standard of state-of-art." Nokia's intelligence network recognized the touchscreen's potential almost immediately. They understood the technical advantages of capacitive sensors and correctly mapped out how an application ecosystem could disrupt their business. The disconnect happened at the executive level. The C-suite reviewed this data and calculated that their massive market position bought them years of lead time. They assumed a $600 device would see limited adoption, and that consumers would remain loyal to the tactile feedback of physical buttons. This internal memo reframes the story of Nokia's decline. It shows that the company had the data to see the future, yet the path from technical awareness to executive action had become hopelessly blocked. To see why Nokia felt they had time to wait, look at their physical footprint in 2007. They employed over 120,000 people worldwide across massive, highly optimized manufacturing facilities. Their entire business relied on supply chain excellence and vertical integration. They controlled the internal components, the rapid assembly lines, and the global distribution networks, giving the company an aura of invincibility. This system routinely produced the most popular consumer hardware on the planet. Legacy models like the 3310 sold over 126 million units, making them some of the most ubiquitous electronic objects on Earth. This area chart illustrates what that dominance looked like in practice. In the third quarter of 2007, Nokia captured 48.7% of the entire global smartphone market. No manufacturer has reached that peak since. By the end of that year, their factories had shipped 437 million phones, generating 51 billion euros in revenue and over 7.2 billion in profit. That record of physical production bred a specific kind of blindness. When your assembly lines are generating billions in profit, it is easy to believe a hardware moat protects you from any outside threat. Nokia's leadership categorized the iPhone strictly as a high-priced hardware competitor. Management believed they could simply design a sleeker physical phone later to counter Apple's momentum. They doubled down on the assumption that serious professionals required physical QWERTY keyboards, writing off glass touchscreens as a novelty that would capture only a small percentage of the market. This diagram illustrates the economic shift happening beneath the surface. Apple shifted value away from physical components into a circular application ecosystem. Developers build apps, attracting users, which attracts more developers. This network scales infinitely without new factories, creating user lock-in traditional manufacturing cannot replicate. Nokia brought a highly tuned physical supply chain to a battlefield that suddenly only valued software ecosystems. The logical move was to abandon their outdated, proprietary operating system, Symbian. But Nokia had poured billions of dollars into Symbian over the years, and executives were unwilling to write down that investment. Other manufacturers saw the shift toward software. Samsung immediately recognized the threat and adopted Google's Android operating system by 2008 to directly challenge Apple. Instead, Nokia tried to force their aging software to work on touchscreens. The result was the 2009 release of the N97, a device plagued by bugs and a physical keyboard that felt increasingly out of step with the market. As the software struggled, the internal culture was tightening under CEO Olli-Pekka Kallasvuo. Those inside the company during this era describe an atmosphere where delivering bad news became a career-ending move. Middle managers were aware that Symbian was technically inferior to Apple's iOS. They knew the software was failing, but raising those concerns upward invited demotion or firing from executives who punished any deviation from the official strategy. This paralysis was compounded by a matrix reorganization executed in 2004 by former CEO Jorma Ollila. That structure created internal silos that slowed down basic decisions and turned product development into a series of warring factions. Nokia had the engineering talent and the capital to pivot. They failed because a toxic management structure actively blocked the truth from traveling to the top of the organization. By the time Stephen Elop took over as CEO in late 2010, the company was hemorrhaging market share. He issued his famous burning platform memo, finally acknowledging the company's dire reality to the public. Elop believed that adopting Android meant competing head-to-head with Samsung's hardware dominance. Looking to differentiate the brand, he chose to reject the Android ecosystem entirely. Instead, he partnered with Microsoft to produce Windows phones. The resulting Lumia devices launched into a software ecosystem with practically no third-party apps and very little developer support. Elop wasn't the only one misreading the landscape. Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer had publicly dismissed the iPhone's chances years earlier, reflecting an industry-wide underestimation of how quickly software would swallow hardware. The public admission of failure, combined with a commitment to an unproven Microsoft ecosystem, acted as a signal of obsolescence. Consumer confidence in Nokia hardware evaporated almost overnight. This line graph tracks the final years of the collapse. Between 2007 and 2012, Nokia's market share plummeted from 48.7% to just 3.5%. That drop wiped out 98% of the company's valuation, leading to the sale of the phone division in 2013. The brand survived through HMD Global, but the phones bearing the Nokia logo today run on Android, the exact software ecosystem leadership refused to adopt when it mattered most. When a business paradigm shifts from hardware to software, previous dominance becomes an anchor. And if a corporate culture punishes the truth, no amount of market share can save it.